Man, welcome to The Jump. Amino Hassan here, still filling in for Rachel Nichols, who's off doing Game of Thrones stuff somewhere else. We have a show today. If Friday was the day of Kevin's, today is the day of David's. Dave McMenamin, and ladies and gentlemen, David Griffin. Welcome to the show. Griff, of course, was the architect of the current Cleveland Cavaliers, winners of 3 straight Eastern Conference Finals and the 2016 NBA champs. Before that, he was a VP with the Cavs for 2 seasons, and before that, he spent 17 years with the Phoenix Suns, working his way up the ladder to VP of basketball ops under Steve Kerr.
Wow.
A lot of highs, a lot of lows in that time, but I'm guessing biggest professional good of his career. See, hiring a loudmouth intern in the fall of 2006 will go on to annoy millions of people on cable TV. It's all his fault, cable. It's all his fault, America. By the way, right there, you know what we're looking at? That's the list of teams that we thought might take Goran Dragic ahead of us, and we're trying to figure out where to buy in.
I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Shout out to Todd Quinter, my man over there. So, Griff, you moved on from what happened at the end of your time in Cleveland. Let me ask you, what's next for you professionally?
Well, if it's not going to be hiring Amin the Dream again as an intern, you know, my goal right now professionally is to make sure all of ESPN refers to you as Amin the Dream.
Oh, man.
But I think I need to do what I would want our players to do. I need to grow and evolve and get better and spend some time doing that. And I don't know what that means, whatever it looks like.
I was about to say, that sounds like
I'm excited
complete PR. So, what does that mean, grow and evolve?
I don't know. I hope it means that I'm here on a regular basis.
There you go.
But I mean, quite frankly, I don't know what that means, and I'm really open to what it means. I don't know the answer, and I'm looking forward to finding out.
What do you think this guy should do?
I mean, why put him in a box? You know?
There you go.
He's proven he can build a championship NBA team. That's a pretty good skill set. I've also covered him in countless press conferences. Good at public speaking too, so I think he's okay. Either way.
Either way. Well, it's time to revisit Kyrie Watch here on The Jump. Hey, he wants to be Batman, right? It's been 18 days since the news leaked to the press. Look at that. They got the bat signal going. Kyrie's trade request has been the story of the offseason since the leak. All of us in the media are speculating about what the Cavs will do and where it'll end up. This past weekend, Kyrie was subject to some criticism for his request. Former Cav Ron Harper said about Kyrie's desire to be the man, quote, "Youth, ignorance. It's always going to be a 2- or 3-star team. You're never going to be a guy who carries a team. You see, when LeBron doesn't play, you don't carry the team. It's never your team. You play for the front of your jersey. Your name is on the back of it." End quote. Griff, assuming there is one, what's the best solution here between Kyrie and the Cavs?
Well, I think Kyrie's going to end up getting traded. But I think what Ron was saying is really unfair to Kyrie. I don't think this is youth and ignorance. This is a guy who handled this situation exactly like he was supposed to. He went to Dan Gilbert privately, told him that he thought he would be happier somewhere else. The absolute worst thing this guy could have done was pretend to be all in and sink the ship from within. Most guys don't have the courage to do what he did. So that's not youth and ignorance. That's a little bit more courage than people give him credit for. And this is a guy whose list included really good coaching situations. Brad Stevens and Popovich. This is the guy who recruited LeBron Hayward and a host of other free agents when he decided to sign and stay in Cleveland. And all of a sudden, LeBron came back.
Right.
So he was sold a totally different situation than he's actually in, and he worked very well in. He won a championship in, and I see this as him looking for a fit for himself now to take the next step in his career.
Dave, let me ask you, do you think there's any chance that the season can start with him still on the roster?
So I used to believe that because of the sheer amount of success they had together as a group. It's like, okay, we can get past this and just think about that. But there's no time for reconciliation because of LeBron's contract situation. There won't be a meeting of the minds, in my opinion. Now, you know, LeBron's camp has led me to believe that LeBron is open to playing with Kyrie if it comes to that, but that could be just a situation where, say, they make a trade with Minnesota and they want to get Jeff Teague back. The deal can happen until December 15th. For both sides, they should move on because the Cavs, probably any of the deals we've discussed, it gets them back to the NBA Finals. So if you can stay that level and you're not dealing with the cloud of discomfort that Kyrie has right now, both sides are better off.
Well, in pursuing a championship, you're either all the way in or you're all the way out. There's no in between. So this is a situation where if they know they're going to be better off apart, they need to get there and get there as quickly as they can.
So, Griff, when I asked you what's next for you, you talked about growth and fulfillment. Is this what Kyrie's searching for himself? Because people say, well, you're going to the finals every year. Is he searching for what is my peak, pretty much?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a guy who wants to know how good he can be. And you know, Dave, you know this as well as anybody, LeBron casts a very large shadow
Sure.
over an organization. And most of it is really, really positive. I mean, you know you're expected to win a championship, by way of example. But what that doesn't always allow is for a player like Kyrie to test his boundaries a little bit and see how good he can really be. And can I actually be the front man of a team like that? And again, the teams on his list, you know, Gordon Hayward in Boston and Kawhi Leonard in San Antonio.
Right.
He would be accompanying other great players. It's not like he's asking to go lead a ragtag bunch.
Right.
He just wanted to put himself in a position, I think, where he could find out exactly what he has as a 25-year-old entering his prime.
And I think there's less of the pressure of I'm playing alongside an all-time great.
Right.
And I'm preserving that legacy and I'm adding to that legacy versus I'm just playing with some great players who enjoy the game, are contemporaries of mine, and we can see what we can do together.
So, Griff, I'm going to ask you a tough question here. So one of the things that Ron Harper brought up that, you know, I don't say I agree with a lot of it, but there's a question there that he asked that I think is a really good question, which is, we all recognize the talent that Kyrie is. Why is it when LeBron doesn't play, the Cavs perform so poorly? And it's one thing to say, well, it's because it's built around LeBron, but shouldn't a player of Kyrie's caliber at least be able to break even and tread water? There are always large minuses in the net ratings when he's off the floor. They're 4-22, was it, Dave?
Yeah, over the last 3 years.
Something that the record when he doesn't play. What do you attribute that to?
Well, I think that's fair criticism, for one. I don't think he's figured out how to carry the mantle of a team and actually win games in that environment. None of the players on that team had learned how to do it before LeBron got there.
Right.
You know, that didn't grow organically. They didn't learn how to win together. What we did was we flipped the switch. And it's very difficult to be all about one thing, have that thing be out of a game, by way of example, in the LeBron situation, and then all of a sudden know how to do it without him. Right. I think everything was geared towards him to a degree, and not so much that he couldn't have carried the load. I think he probably didn't have enough expectation of himself to do it, because everybody just assumed, well, if we lose this one, it's okay.
Right.
And that's really my fault. I think we had to do a better job of calibrating everybody towards when LeBron's not out of the game, that's opportunity for you. Right. And we need to grow and evolve, and we didn't do that well enough.
How do you balance that, though? How do you balance the goal of winning a championship right now versus the, I guess you call the personal development of the other guys on the roster?
Well, I mean, I think, again, you can do those things if when LeBron's sitting out, you have a whole nother game plan. And what that is we're going to develop X, Y, Z tonight. This is an opportunity to get better at something specific. And again, I don't think I drove that very well, and I don't think we did that in a good enough way.
At the same time, though, you prioritized what really mattered, which was health in the postseason. And there was the idea of built-in rest for not only LeBron, but Kyrie also, you know, being his injury history. So I take you off the hook a little bit there, because there was a clear vision being presented, and the shrapnel was, okay, we lose some regular season games.
Sure, no, I mean, we knew we were going to rest people, and everybody knew that there was going to be a game plan, but what we were doing during that period of time probably could have been more clearly enunciated, and I think we could have gotten more out of that.
One more answer for both of you guys. Early August, where does he land?
Minnesota, I think, would be the best deal the Cavs could get if they get Wiggins.
I don't know.
No, look at this guy. Oh, we got to break him of those front office habits. Let's get to the Clippers, who shook up the front office a bit over the weekend. Doc Rivers no longer serving in the front office after being relieved of those duties by owner Steve Ballmer. Rivers will remain the head coach and will work closely with Lawrence Frank, who will now oversee basketball operations. Dave, how should Doc react to this new role?
He should feel okay. If it wasn't Lawrence Frank
Right.
taking over that role, I think it'd be a completely different situation. But that's his guy. He hired him. It's his consigliere.
Right.
So they're swapping titles more so than swapping roles, in my opinion.
No, I agree. And I think if you look at how Doc has dealt with every other big situation with the Clippers, most notably the Sterling transition, this is a guy who is a great leader.
Right.
And he will lead from the front, and he will embrace this and do what he needs to do to get the most out of his team.
Is there any part of this that's like riding first class and now being told you have to go back to riding coach?
Listen, if you care about winning and you trust the people you work with, that shouldn't matter. You should put your ego aside to try to win games. I think the thing that's interesting to me is how much influence Jerry West had in this decision. I was under the impression that Jerry West was brought in to try to bring LeBron James to the Clippers. That was the biggest, kind of carrot for that hire. Beyond that, I'm not so sure Jerry West came in there to say, Doc, you can't do that anymore, in my opinion.
Well, I don't think Jerry had much to do with this particular aspect of things, but I also think that yes, it from an ego standpoint could be something that sets Doc back a bit, but nothing's a thing unless you make it a thing.
Yeah.
And if you embrace it and you become about what this allows for you to do, and I think Doc will do that, you can really benefit from this transition.
Plus, you don't have to deal with Chris Paul and Blake Griffin bickering next year. So you get that off the plate, you can deal with this other new turmoil.
It's definitely a full-time job, and we'll touch on that a little bit later about the concept of being able to do both jobs. But in the context of basically, we have one successful example in NBA, well, not in modern NBA history, and that's San Antonio. And so, Griff, what would you say San Antonio was different about what San Antonio does that allows them to do this thing that's the exception to the rule?
Well, I think Pop is a really unique thing. If Porzingis is the unicorn on the court, then Pop is the unicorn off the court. This is a guy whose #1 piece is leadership. And what he's done is raise a family there. And it's really what we were trying to emulate to a huge degree as well. But this is a very, very difficult job to do and focus on both things, because tonight's coaching job means I must win tonight's game. That's what we were just talking about, developing. And front office people have to get better 2-3 years from now. And it's just a totally mutually exclusive job. And those are really divergent goals quite often. And so what San Antonio has done, because their best player was Tim Duncan and allowed for them to do the things that needed to happen, Pop was able to be Pop. In a world without Tim Duncan, in a world with the best player that doesn't allow for that, I don't think you ever get that.
Right, and the Austin Rivers deal apparently led to a lot of resentment in that locker room. And obviously, if there was a different GM in place, maybe Doc wouldn't have looked as complicit in that move.
Right. Well, we have to take a break, but when the jump returns, we'll ask Griff about the pressure of building a team around